If you've ever felt like you're too emotional, too much, or you're constantly giving but never receiving anything in return, then this video is for you, because today we're going to be talking about what wounded feminine energy is, how it might be showing up in your life, and more importantly, how to heal it. Hi, my name is Amanda Obeya. Welcome to this channel where we talk about how to manifest what you want in life without all the extra stress, chaos, and drama that most people are accustomed to. We talk a lot about nervous system regulation, feminine energy. We've been talking about healthy relationship dynamics, prosperity consciousness. We talk about a lot of the woo-woo things. So if that's something that you are interested in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. And as always, I always have resources that go deeper into what I'm talking about in the video. So today I've got two. The first is the Enhance Your Feminine Energy Guide. That one's 100% free. You can download it below. You get added to our email list so you'll know when we have new things coming out, new products, new videos, workshops, you name it. And the second is a workshop I created just for you guys because of all the questions that have been coming in on the YouTube channel, where there's been a lot of confusion about what is healthy masculine and feminine energy. So I've put together a whole masterclass for you guys so you truly understand what these dynamics look like in different areas of your life, and also how to integrate it within you so you can start manifesting a lot faster. So you can find the information for both of those below. Okay, so in this video, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be unpacking what wounded feminine energy really is, because again, a whole lot of confusion out here on the internet, especially in the spiritual places. We're also going to be talking about where it comes from, and we're going to show you how, or I'm going to show you how to begin healing and embodying a more empowered version of feminine energy. I've done other videos on this where I've done wounded feminine versus empowered feminine. This one we're just focusing on the wounded feminine. So first thing is first, what is feminine energy? So it's not about gender, right? Now, the majority of women do have a feminine essence at their core. Not all of them, but the majority do. So it's not about gender, but the majority of women, if you ask them where they feel more safe, most comfortable, most at ease, most like themselves, they would call themselves feminine energy, and once they actually understand what it is. But it's not necessarily about gender. It's more about an archetypal polarity, right? We've talked a lot about polarity on this channel, and that masterclass, the feminine energy versus masculine energy masterclass below, I talk all about polarity, and I go really deep into this polarity concept and what it looks like. So make sure to grab it below while it is still available. Now, a lot of these core feminine traits are emotion, intuition, receiving, sensuality, nurturing, and creativity. And healthy feminine energy is soft and powerful, okay? It's magnetic, it's grounded, it's embodied, and it's also very radiant. And again, if you were to ask most women, once they understand these concepts, because a lot of women don't understand these concepts, and that's part of the reason why we're in the mess that we're in terms of relationships and the state of the world, if you ask me, then they would say, okay, yes, I feel more comfortable there. That's where I feel more like myself. That's what feels good. Okay, now what is wounded feminine energy? So wounded feminine basically means that there's a distorted or blocked expression of these traits. It often develops through trauma, conditioning, rejection of femininity, or relationship wounds, or all of the above in the world that we're living in, and in most cases. So for example, for me, I had a lot of ancestral trauma around this because I come from a long line of women on both sides of the family who had to be very controlling in order to survive. So this is something that's been passed down for multiple generations, at least 3 generations back that I know of on each side. And getting really clear on that was actually really healing for me a few years ago, because I was able to clear it pretty quickly once I realized it, and then manifest my husband. A lot of it's also conditioning. So I was also conditioned to believe that like most women, that the world is an unsafe place. It's crazy. Men are not to be trusted. They're dangerous to you. And yes, some men are, right? But most women or most mothers or grandmothers don't necessarily know how to teach their daughters, hey, this is healthy, this is not, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing a lot of these videos, because most of us were not taught these things. We have to go find them on our own, in my case, or unfortunately a lot of cases, learn the hard way. There's also rejection of femininity. So there was a little bit of that in my household. There was, especially on my mother's side and my grandmother, her mother, there was a very high value placed on intellectualism over anything else and achievement over anything else. There was more of a rejection of that feminine side of hers. And again, you know, she went through a lot of, my grandmother went through quite a lot of trauma where she had to grow up very quickly as a child, and then as an adult there was more serious trauma. So like, I understand why there was the rejection of femininity, but that's one of the ways in which it shows up. Or relationship wounds, because again, no one's out here teaching people how to be in healthy relationships, and a lot of the stuff that's out here is absolutely crazy, like the Aubrey Marcus polyamory insanity, and then the Twin Flames universe insanity, like, or Sex and the City even. Like, Sex and the City, great show, very funny, but it's meant to be a satire. It's not meant to be like, hey, this is how you're actually supposed to have relationships. So between a bunch of charlatans out here who don't know what they're talking about, and they're spiritualizing a lot of these things, and then shows like Sex and the City, you know, and a lot of big changes that we've been through as society in the last few decades, there's a lot of confusion in terms of relationships, which is causing a lot of relationship wounds. So here are some of the signs of wounded feminine. Let me know in the comments which ones you relate to. So there's a deep fear of abandonment. Check, been there. Right? They're seeking validation through others. I don't know if I ever did that. Yeah, I must have. As a child, I must have done that. So I'm going to put a check. I'm going to put a check on that one. Overgiving and people-pleasing, check. We've all done that one. Using seduction or guilt to feel powerful. I didn't do that, right? But I saw my mother and grandmother use guilt to feel powerful all the time. I think the reason why I didn't do it is because I rejected because I saw them do it. Emotional reactivity or total shutdown. I'm the shutdown one. And also hyper independence from untrusting, from not being able to trust other people. That's me. So I spent 10 years really hyper focused on business and achievement and making money until I collapsed. And when I collapsed, I realized that a lot of my hyper independence was based on a lot of the stuff that we just talked about just a few seconds ago. So let's get into where a lot of this stuff comes from, right? So childhood wounds. So for example, emotionally unavailable parents. I would argue that in Western society, you have a lot of children that are growing up somewhat emotionally neglected. Even if your parents were amazing, there's still some level of emotional neglect when you still got two parents that got to go outside of the household to work, because that's how society has been set up. Okay, so I have some conspiracy theories about this, about how in some Western countries they want the state to raise kids, and that causes a whole bunch of problems. And one of those problems is emotionally unavailable parents, because they're literally just not there, because they have to go work just to survive. I know, I'm from the United States. I know that's a huge problem in the United States. There's also the idea of where it could also come from is toxic relationships that taught you love equals pain. So maybe you saw this at home in the dynamic with your parents. A lot of people did. My husband did in his household. It wasn't until he was, you know, in his 30s when he realized, hey, wait a second, like, that's not how this is supposed to be. But up until that point, he totally thought it was normal. So a lot of people end up repeating those cycles where love equals pain. Or again, it could be society telling women, you know, what they should be and how they should be behaving, and whether it's be quiet, be nice, or don't be too much on one end of the spectrum. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Sex and the City lifestyle, which is also extremely damaging to a woman. And we know that now, okay? How many of us grew up on Sex and the City? I wasn't allowed to watch it. As a kid, I grew up in a very Catholic household. I was not allowed to watch it. I think it was out when I was like in high school or something. I wasn't allowed to watch it. And now I understand why as an adult, right? Because even though it was meant to be satire and funny, my parents did not want that training me, to put it that way, at a young age where you can't tell fiction from reality. How many women in their 40s and 50s who grew up with the Sex and the City lifestyle still act like an emotionally stunted Carrie Bradshaw? Because now we know as adults that Carrie Bradshaw is very emotionally stunted, but that was kind of sold as like, hey, this is the lifestyle that you want. So we have both extremes in terms of the lifestyle. And then a lot of times feminine energy has gotten suppressed over eons, right? Not eons, but over the last several centuries, at least, to survive or fit in. We think of the burning times and when the witch trials in Europe, and really they happened all over the world, but Europe, I think, was one of the worst ones. That I know of anyway. I could be wrong, but they happened all over the world. But let's talk about like the European witch trials, because I know for a fact. Well, no, because we were in Spain, so they weren't as affected as much. But my husband, we found out, for example, like he has a lot of lineage where the witch trials were really intense in Europe. So imagine, being a woman in those times and you have to repress things that were naturally seen as feminine arts or you were going to get killed. Okay, so that's one of the reasons as well. So how do we get into healing the wounded feminine? So number one, you have to embrace your emotional wisdom. You have to feel your feelings fully without shame or guilt. Now I'm going to put a caveat to this. You also need to have emotional mastery. Okay, because on one end of the spectrum, you have women who cannot control their emotions and they're just reacting to everything and causing a lot of drama and chaos and letting their emotions completely run the show and dictate their actions and decisions. That's not good. And on the other end of the spectrum, this is where I tend to lie or did lie, which is you have the women who are emotionally cut off and they're living from the neck up. And again, that is a survival mechanism. So we have to learn how to feel our feelings in a safe way. And sometimes it's with therapists, sometimes it's in meditation groups, sometimes it's in Latin America. We have a joke. I mean, it's not a joke, right? But in Latin America, there's like comedians from Latin America who will be like, you don't need a therapist, you just need like your best friend, right? Because we're like more open in Latin America. But it could be your journal, right? That's how I do it now. Like if I'm like really flustered or really freaking emotional about something, I will take that shit out on the pages in my journal and then I'm fine after 5 minutes. It's like I've alchemized it, but I don't lash out at my husband or at anybody who might be around me or even at myself. I'm not lashing out, and at the same time I'm not repressing it. I'm going to my journal, I'm taking it out on my journal, and that really helps. Other thing is you want to reclaim your worthiness. As a woman, you're worthy just for being, okay? You don't have to give anything, and you are already worthy. I know that this is very difficult concept to wrap your head around in today's society. I can do other videos on that if you want me to. So just let me know in the comments below if you would like that. Next thing is embodiment practices. So anything that grounds us and gets us into our bodies can really help us heal the wounded feminine energy. I'm talking breath work, sensual dance, yin yoga, pleasure practices, self-touch, all that kind of stuff can help us really get heal the wounded feminine, because a lot of women feel are very disconnected from their bodies. So, and then that can show up in wounded feminine energy. We definitely want to do what we can to heal codependency. So we want to set boundaries, we want to stop over functioning, and we want to start validating ourselves instead of waiting for other people to validate us, right? It's interesting how a lot of women who will end up in situations like the one Violana Marcus is in, if she validated herself, she would walk out of there like this. And she would not be putting up with this. But because she's in wounded feminine energy, she doesn't want the conflict. She's over functioning. He's making her jump through hoops. I mean, it's a whole freaking mess, and they're codependent, and then they're trying to sell it to us, right? Which is insane. But healing codependency, again, you might need a trauma-informed coach. You might need a therapist. Really working through that kind of stuff. You want to start learning how to trust your intuition and divine timing. This was huge for me. I had to learn how to surrender and let go of control when my life was totally falling apart. Like the life that I had built, this was a few years ago when I had my own spiritual awakening. The life I had built, granted it was built on ego and I did not know that at the time, but basically it started to fall apart and I needed to learn to surrender to what was going on in that moment. And now I'm starting to see just a beautiful life emerge where, my life is more based on desire, not fear. It's more based on love, not shame. I'm married to a very masculine provider man. I have more creative energy than I've ever had. I'm living out my dream of living in other countries. My husband helps people move to other countries. As well. My spiritual life is really amazing. I'm assisting in meditation classes here in Mexico. I'm getting trained. I started this YouTube channel. There's so much expansion going on all at the same time, but it had to do with the fact that I had to surrender first. huge. And I had to trust my intuition and my divine timing, even when it looked crazy, by the way, because I'd been saying for years that I wanted to go live in other countries, and people were like, you're crazy, you're out of your mind, what are you doing? Or I let a business go, and everyone's like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You need to go get your head checked. Literally, I had family members telling me I had to go get my head checked. A year later, I was engaged, living in another country, starting new businesses, living my best life, and now they're like, how did you do it? And I'm like, well, I always said that I was going to do it. And they're like, yeah, but we thought you were just talking and you were crazy, right? So yeah, it might look crazy to other people, but you have to trust that. And this is also huge. I did a lot of this work reconnecting with your inner child. A lot of us have to learn how to reparent ourselves and hold space for the younger self who felt unworthy or unseen. Because a lot of times, a lot of people were emotionally stunted because they did not. Well, we don't have rites of passage anymore. That's part of it. I mean, I guess some religions do, but typically in the West, we don't have rites of passage anymore. Again, you know, you've got both parents not available for their kids in the West these days. So there's a lot of reasons why a kid might feel unworthy or unseen that don't even have to have big T trauma. It could be little T trauma, and you feel unworthy or unseen, and we have to learn how to reparent ourselves. And again, you know, you might need the help of a therapist in order to do that. So let's go into the empowered feminine and what that looks like, right? So the empowered feminine, the healed feminine, she's magnetic, she's embodied, and she's whole. She's not chasing anybody. She doesn't chase shit, right? She attracts. Things come to her like bees to a flower. The empowered feminine also radiates love without abandoning herself. So it's interesting because I've been coaching women for 15 years, different capacities, finance, business. Now we do more holistic stuff. And one of the things that I always thought was really interesting about women was, not all women, but the women who are wounded feminine, they couldn't make a decision to save their lives. So they would say things like, yeah, I really want a business and I really want to work with you, and the time comes to purchase something, and then they got to go ask 15 people about it, and then they end up getting talked out of it, even though their soul is calling them to work with me or purchase a masterclass or purchase a course, because they are not used to not abandoning themselves, right? They're always kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They're always looking toward other people, right, to validate them. And then when they don't get the validation, then they end up essentially abandoning themselves. A lot of women out here are in situations where, you know, they want to start businesses, for example, and every time the opportunity comes up to learn about it, they abandon themselves by not getting the training that they need, or they want to have better relationships, and then the opportunity or the teacher shows up, and then they abandon themselves by not investing in what they need. Or in relationships, right? How many times do we see women abandoning themselves because they're so terrified of being abandoned by another person that they end up abandoning themselves and compromising all their values and their instincts and their safety and what they need, right? Because they end up abandoning themselves. And a lot of women come to this realization eventually, especially the ones who've been in toxic relationships, and have to come to terms with the fact that at some point they abandoned themselves, and that's the responsibility that they need to take in that. So that's basically the empowered feminine and how she operates, right? She's attractive. She does not abandon herself. She's magnetic. She's embodied. She's whole. She's able to move forward on her desires and what it is that she wants to create. And she has emotional mastery, and her nervous system is regulated. And again, you can check out all the resources below. I have master classes on Hustle to Harmony, which is all about nervous system regulation and the 4-step process I use to regulate my nervous system and start manifesting my husband in 4 months, moving to another country in a year, and 2 new businesses, including this channel, which now brings in passive income into this household. And I have a blast doing this. Definitely a lot more fun and pleasurable than my last businesses. And then the other one is the masculine energy and feminine energy masterclass, where I go through each of them really specifically and how to harmonize that within yourself so you're able to manifest and you're able to have healthier relationships. That one will be down there as well. And then there's also the free Enhance Your Feminine Energy guide below. You can get all 3 of them. They're all going to be in the description and available for you. If you're feeling called to it, do not abandon yourself and go grab it. So thank you so much for giving me your time today, and I will see you on the next one.